All right, you guys, it's time to go ahead and get started. Breaking news, Epstein bombshells. Where do we start? Well, Epstein called Trump as late as 2017 after Trump won the election. He says, before I call Trump with regard to Virginia, I wonder if they're talking about Virginia Giuffre. This was in 2011. Are there any other alternatives? 2011. We're also going to get into today vampire emails suggesting that Epstein admitted he was a vampire. We're going to get into AI robot consciousness that they were seeking, and Henrietta Lackey's stem cells from her adrenal glands. That was brought up as well. Now, let's start with this contact that Epstein had with Trump all through the years, where Trump said, "Oh, I had nothing to do with Epstein." Literally, Trump never lost contact with Epstein all the way up to at least his first term in 2016. And there are even contacts to people associated with Trump and close to his cabinet all the way into 2017. Now, what is going on? Well, first of all, we opened with this cryptic email. Before I call Trump, just like no big deal, in this email to a man named William Riley. So obviously the heat was getting turned up with Virginia Giuffre. We then have this email in 2010, and this is about a party. A party at the new Trump Soho building. There were people they were on the guest list here. They talking about scouting for downtown gals. Doorman guest list post 10 p.m. I will add Jeffrey Epstein +4 to the list just in case. Sound good? This is from somebody who has been redacted. And Jeffrey Epstein says, great. This was in 2010. Now, if Trump was so disgusted with Epstein as he wants to lead us to believe, why wasn't Epstein trespassed from all of Trump's properties? I mean, if you had a best friend that you found out was a PDF file, and you claimed to have cut all ties with this person, and you knew that they were milling around your town, let's say you owned 2 restaurants in town, wouldn't you trespass that friend from your restaurants? I mean, it's obvious he was already convicted. He's not even supposed to be around minors. So you would absolutely do that, wouldn't you? I mean, there was a guest list and everything, where you're on a list, you have to show ID and everybody knows that he's coming. Yet Epstein wasn't flagged. He wasn't trespassed from Donald Trump's properties. And then we get this creepy email. You remember this guy, Sultan bin Sulaim, which was highly implicated in the files. We already covered him in several instances. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but essentially this guy's name came up all over the Epstein files, and he gets an invite to Trump's inauguration from Tom Barrack, and he's asking Epstein if he should go. He then asks Epstein if he can shake Trump's hand, as if Epstein is the one who could grant that wish. He says, do you think it will be possible to shake hands with Trump? And Epstein gives his advice on going. He says, very many people going. This is Epstein speaking. It would be very crowded, but if you can meet some before or after in either Washington or New York, it might be worth it, but unlikely. Then I found this bombshell. Literally a planned shooting. Are you listening? A planned shooting that I confirmed with a news headline. Let me check in with you guys, make sure we're connected, and I'll show you this just to show you that they do plan shootings. I shouldn't probably say, I'll say scrooting from now on. Because you say that too much. See, we live in a reality now where social media, they're part of it too. They're hiding it because they won't let us talk about certain things without flagging our videos. Check this out. Let's start from the beginning of the email chain here. Epstein asks this person, Eon, I-O-N or E-I-N, E-I-A-N, where are you this Christmas Day? Ian then responds, at my parents' house in the English country. Good Christmas rituals at the cathedral for midnight mass last night. Shooting tomorrow. Then to London for 2 days after Punta. Speak tomorrow. Are you on the island? Did the Black Santa pay you a visit? Did the Black Santa pay you a visit? He's asking Epstein. Now, who is this Ian Osborne guy? I don't know. But Epstein replies and he says, yes, but he brought the appropriate present. Now, this was on December 25th, 2011. Shooting tomorrow. And so I looked it up. Was there a shooting on December 26th, the next day, in 2011? And there absolutely was. A mass shooting in Texas in which a gunman dressed like Santa, is this the Black Santa? He killed an entire family before killing himself. Gunman's victims were aged 15, 19, 22, 55, 58, and 59. Reported by the BBC. Remember, the guy was in England. So who is Ian Osborne? And how did he know there would be a shooting tomorrow? Wow. This ain't over, is it? This is not over. Now, few of you asked me to search the Epstein files for the HEK 293 cell line. Now, if you don't know about this, let me give you a brief synopsis. There are two different cell lines that were harvested in different ways. One was from a fetus, which is the HEK 293 cell line, which was essentially the profile of these cells was used for the flavoring of Pepsi. Now, the fact checkers have debunked. They said, no, the cells aren't actually in the Pepsi, but we used the profile of the cells, the flavor profile of fetal cells for the flavoring of Pepsi. So what is this about? Well, these cells that were derived from a fetus have been used and cloned over and over again for decades and used in the top cancer research. For some reason, there's something about these cells that they keep just re-cloning over and over again in the search to find a cure for cancer. So what is this about? Well, nothing came up when I searched HEK 293, but here's what did come up, and I found it quite by accident. I was searching the topic of immortality, and what I found was Henrietta Lacks. And from her adrenal glands, adrenochrome, they found another cell line, which they call HeLa, which is the first two letters of her first and last name. And they've been doing the same thing. They've been reconstituting her cells since the let's see, when did they do this? Here's her biography. This is Henrietta Lacks, and her cell line is HeLa, her name, since the 1950s is when she died. She died with 88 days left in the year from cervical cancer, and they went into her adrenal glands and they basically found this cell line. Now, what's missing from this story is why. Why this woman who thought, oh, okay, let's just take this random person and harvest their adrenal glands, right? And let's just copy them over and over again and use them for all cancer research from time in memoriam, right? So that's weird. We're not given a true reason as to why her cells were chosen. Now, I have my suspicions about why this is the case, but I can imagine it has something to do with her genetics. Things that we weren't supposed to know about in the 1950s in terms of genetics because we hadn't mapped genetics yet. I'll put links to these Wikipedia articles on HEK 293 and the Gila cell line. But let's get into the email in which her name occurs. Here is the email. It's to somebody who's redacted from Epstein. But down here, let's see here, from redacted to Epstein, this person says, hope you had a good new year and all's good with you. I just got back from a fabulous holiday in Mauritius. On Thursday night, I rejoined the Mad Mummy Brigade for the new term. Come and visit or let me know when you will be in Paris. I'm going over to do some flea market searching for some furniture to go underneath stunning antique French mirror I bought and some beautiful glassware for my dining room. Book for you, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, brings a new slant to medical ethics debate. Happy 9th for 2 days ago. I don't know what that means. 9th of what? So you got to remember the context of this. Epstein was looking for immortality. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show, but he was into immortality. So this is why this person thought he would be interested in this book. Wow. And as I said, the missing story behind each of these cell lines is what did scientists see that made them want to culture and replicate these cell lines that are still in use today? What did they see? So, I would like to know who sent this email. If our DOJ had nothing to hide, we would see this person who's redacted in this email, right? It's obviously not a minor. The Epstein files aren't over. This is the hugest cover-up in history. Now, this wasn't some one-off book recommendation, because in other emails, it was said that Epstein had a fascination with immortality. Let's go on to this next one here. This is Gino Yu. Remember this guy? Gino Yu. He was that scientist that Epstein was funding to look for people with special abilities. Remember that show we did? Gino Yu. And in this email chain, Gino Yu introduces Epstein to a man named Robert. That Epstein has an interest. He tells him that Epstein has an interest in AI and consciousness. Virtual immortality. Dealing with AI and consciousness. Wow. Now, what else is going on? Well, here's another email. And this is where things get really creepy. This was in 2014, and Epstein emails himself. It's kind of a reminder. I do this sometimes. If I have to remind myself of something, I'll email myself, especially if I'm on my cell phone. I'll look at something later. And Epstein says to himself, Tipler physics of immortality. So I looked this up. What is Tipler physics of immortality, and why was Epstein reminding himself of this? Well, here it is right here. This is Frank J. Tipler. And he had a theory that he could resurrect the dead. And he was also working on a time machine. Now, this is right out of a science fiction movie. We've done a lot of work on time machines, time travel. This begs the question, was Epstein one of the immortals? Now, we've had our suspicions about Trump and his time traveler tendencies, and I won't go into all the detail around it, but there's so much evidence. Biff, Back to the Future, the people who created Back to the Future literally based the character Biff off of Trump. They admitted that. Biff found the almanac, which made him rich. And there are so many other connections. Biff's Pleasure Paradise, Trump Tower, and on and on and on. So, time travel is a strange topic because it can also mean, based on our research, that there's a host body possessed by a demon, and the demon is the one who is traveling down through time, possessing new host bodies down through generations and generations. And that's a form of time travel moving forward in the future, not backwards. But in our research, we've also found that this is how the wealthy and elite rule over the rest of us. I suspect that the true leaders of our world, the silent leaders, some of which are appearing in the Epstein files, that they're all demons in host bodies. The demons give them technology, which they then ferret out to the rest of us. They build the oppressive economic system that keeps us enslaved and them in power through the technology. And so this Tipler guy was talking about some of these concepts, and Epstein was interested in this. Tipler actually called God the Omega point, is what he called him. Now, we know the Bible says God is the Alpha and the Omega, so there's something to this. But through his theories, he essentially says that Omega point is the final ending point of everything, which is God. And his time machine theory, called the Tipler cylinder, was actually refuted by none other than Stephen Hawking, who we knew visited Epstein Island. The Tipler time machine, a hypothetical object theorized to be a potential mode of time travel. Whoa. Unbelievable. Now, let's keep going. In another email, this is Sultan bin Sulayem again. He sends Epstein a link on billionaires transplanting their brains into robot bodies. Russian Arch Project offers immortality, billionaires transplanting brains, robot bodies. So this is what these rich freaks were into, trying to trump God's plan of eternal life, going around the other way like a thief and a robber, trying to find a way into the kingdom. In this next email, we find out that Epstein was funding research into immortality. In this conversation that he has with Lawrence Summers. Let's read this. Lawrence says, "You funded in the day, should fund more." This was 2015. Epstein says, "I recently met with Andy am reviewing charities. Not easy. Information on the edge of the black hole. Or printing kidneys. Or transplanting pig parts. Or staying alive longer. Larry or Lawrence then says, I think it is easy. Anything in pursuit of immortality is easy to fund. Fundamental genius, much harder, and it's cheap. You are someone a mega hero for a few million. To be clear, this is a lower priority for me than poetry video or Mongolia, whatever that means. Wow. Now we're going to get into vampires, which of course are theoretically immortal. In this next message exchange, a sender by the name of Ning, N-I-N-G, is trying to arrange a Jewish doctor with Epstein to have their blood work done. Epstein then tells him or her that he can arrange to drain some of his vampire blood. If Epstein's doctor isn't available soon enough, this is crazy. Let's go back to the beginning of this thread here. Sender, Epstein. Alternatively, if you take a trip to Palm Beach, all bloods, etc. can be done. My head of Mayo Clinic, a good friend. Reminder money, medicine law, Jews only. Then Ning replies, N-I-N-G, I've only had Jewish doctors and lawyers since leaving the Navy. Epstein then says, Bernie's not available until Wednesday, though I'm sure we can organize to drain you of some of that vampire blood. He then corrects himself and he says, not blood, ice water. That boils on contact. Epstein then says, I didn't know Bill Burke was circumcised, though I'm sure he feels as if he is still undergoing the procedure. Now, they could be joking, but then I found this. Another email exchange between Epstein and that Norwegian guy, Boris Nikolic. Remember that guy? Loose lips, Boris Nikolic. He was the one that we found most of the stuff on. The guy that was hanging out with the Princess of Norway, Princess Mette. Well, Boris sends Epstein a study about longevity and mice. Let's go back to the beginning here. This is crazy. This is absolutely insane. Let me just explain this to you because it's a kind of a long email, but I'll put a link to it. Essentially, Boris sends Epstein a study on mice longevity. Basically, aged mice, they took out their stagnant cells. In other words, cells that are described in the study as cells that will no longer reproduce or no longer replicate. So they were able to find concentrations of these cells in the mice and remove them over their life as they begin to build up, cells that just stop dividing. And they found that even though the mice didn't live longer, that they led much healthier lives. They had more muscle mass, less disease when they would remove the stagnant cells that were no longer dividing from their bodies. Now, what's shocking about this email is not the study. What's shocking is how Boris jokes about this. And he says, you were right, Jeffrey Epstein. JEE was right all along. What was he right about? Memo to mature, health-minded vampires. You might want to consider limiting your treats to victims under age 30. Now, if you're not tracking, the inference here is that, like the older mice are full of stagnant cells, which would in turn transfer to a vampire feeding on the older victims, they would not have a very good quality of life because the stagnant cells would build up in the vampire. That's what's being inferred here. Wow. Now, we're going to hop away from the vampire subject and get into an iMessage stream between Bannon and Epstein. And this really gives you a snapshot into what was really going on with the Trump presidency, because in this exchange, Bannon literally says in 2018, Trump was in office a couple years at that point, his first term, he says that Jared Kushner is really running the country. Let's read through these. Let's make sure we're moving the right direction. This looks like 3/26/11/21. Steve Bannon says, thanks again for yesterday. Really terrific day. We should do more fun things. Life is short. Joy will organize a meeting with the powers behind Time's Up. They prefer academic setting for cover. Already in the works. So there's this Time's Up secret meeting. He then says, where are you now based in DC? Do you need another base? Now this might be Epstein talking. Hold on, let's see here. Then he says, I thought Summers thought remanufacturing jobs had legs. Can you manufacture jobs instead, or does the base require a former? Steve Bannon says, my house is a small compound right now behind Supreme Court that acts as a great base. Cool. Then we hear him say, I suggest you meet Bill Burns. Ask whoever that is. Think if it is okay for you to meet HBJ. Thinks Jared and he can run it. He thinks Jared and he can run it. Then he says, Donald can run investigations? ? Government, says Steve Bannon. I think Jared has done the fade recently as heat has been turned up. Heard how smart he is and he doesn't need anyone else. Chat tonight, not from here. Wow. So, some strange interactions going on there. Now, what else do we have? Here we go. Donald told, this is Steve Bannon speaking, he doesn't need anyone except Jared, aka Bobby Kennedy. I don't know what that means. He doesn't need anyone except Jared. Otherwise, or aka, also known as Bobby Kennedy. Why is Jared being compared to Bobby Kennedy? That's weird. Donald said, not told. Now, anytime these emails get more and more specific, Epstein tends to cut them off. He cuts off the email and then he goes back to saying, hey, call me. So you can tell he knows that his emails might come up one day and come back to bite him. So he always says, call me, and cuts off the email. Now, tomorrow, I found red shoes, as well as an Epstein commentary that he wrote on the history of people with red hair and all these crazy mythologies behind it, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know what the takeaway is from that, but it's interesting that he took the time to write all this down. There's also an email about dark matter that we'll be getting into tomorrow as well. Let me go back into the chat and see if you guys have any questions or anything you'd like to talk about before we end the show today. Wonder if JE had any emails about him faking his death or escaping after he got into trouble. Good question. It says Kushner took over Epstein's crime ring. Wow. Thanks, Leilani. Thank you guys for showing up. Today is Mardi Gras. Reefer Madness, if he did, it's not coming out. Yes, Jared does look evil, doesn't he? If it was long distance, the call would be recorded also, says Sheldon. Yeah, who's HBJ? That's weird. Let's look it up. HBJ. Hamid bin Hassim. Okay. The former prime minister and foreign minister of Qatar. That has to be who it is. Wow. So now we have some context. What's up with all the signs and the messages? Well, you got to remember, this was during the era of BlackBerry, and BlackBerries were notorious for being difficult to type. They literally tried to fit the whole, what is it called? Keyboard onto the phone. Remember those days? They were tiny. And so it almost seems like by default, all these people had very, very sloppy, writing when they would text message and send emails and things from their BlackBerry. Now, most of us can't relate because most of us didn't have BlackBerries. BlackBerries were kind of an elite cell phone, weren't they? It was a computer. It was one of the first computers in your hand before kind of the iPhone even. So, yeah, I did try to search to see if Epstein was talking about faking his death, but it's very hard because if you just type in fake his death, nothing's going to show up. They're not going to be that obvious about it. There's going to have to be something that we search for that is going to be more specific to get down to the bottom of it. Yes, Alex Jones is protecting Trump. He always has. So if you don't realize what happened with Alex Jones, what happens is these people strike plea deals with our government. They become informants. They become basically propagandists for the government. That's part of their deal. So they can keep their wealth, so they can keep their power, and they're turned. It's a very vampiric type of government that we have. Because you're worth more to the government if you have any kind of following. You're worth more to them to continue to deceive people than you are in jail. Okay. If they put you in jail, now they got to take care of you. You've been discredited. They'd rather just turn you and control you like a puppet. And I truly believe that this is what's happened to Alex Jones. And I don't know when it happened, but it happened because he just says things that make absolutely no sense. Okay. And so they find dirt on these people or they threaten their life or whatever. Boots is outside cleaning his claws on a log. So you guys want to hear a crazy story? So I'm sitting in my blind yesterday and I had just moved my scope on my crossbow because it was too close. And so when you put your crossbow on your arm rest, right, the butt of the crossbow, and you look through the scope, you should be able to, it should make a big giant circle instead of a pinpoint. So my scope was too close to my eyes, what I'm trying to say. So I just moved my scope back and I thought, it's not going to be that far off. It's, it'll be close enough. No. Anytime you move anything on a crossbow, you need to readjust and retarget the crossbow. So I go in the blind. Now this is the 5th or 6th time I've been in the blind since I've been back from California. And I think, I'll just go in the blind. Now I just moved the blind. It's actually closer to my bedroom, but it's in a place that has a lot more cover for deer to run through. So I thought, this is going to increase my odds because there's more cover. It's further away from the road, so the deer will feel safe. So I'm in the blind, and all of a sudden I hear this rustling behind me. And it's Boots. Boots had followed me to the blind. and we both jumped. I almost jumped through the roof of the blind because he startled me. Because as soon as I turned around, he jumped, and then I jumped, and he's outside the blind. So Boots pushes his way through a crack in the blind, because when I close the door, I don't use the zipper because it's loud and scare off the game. Yeah, it is deer season here. It's crossbow season still, all the way till February, the end of February in Arkansas. So Boots pushes his way in through the blind. And I'm like, oh, I'm so cute to see him. Now, I don't sit long in the blind. I literally, this was last night, right before sundown. And I thought there's no way a deer is going to come through, but at least, I'll just sit in the blind. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking the scope is probably going to be okay. It might be off a few inches, but I'm not thinking it's going to be off. Sure enough, Boots comes in. He's standing on top of the chair, which is like my turret. I have a chair in front of me that's a swivel chair, and I use that as the turret for my gun, for my rest, for my crossbow. And so he comes in and he's like, ooh, a new space. This is fun. Ooh, I'm with my master. I can just play in here and be safe and look out. And this is fun. And he's purring, and he's purring so loud. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, my luck, a deer's going to walk up. And sure enough, a deer starts walking into view. Now, I had the perfect shot. Literally at 20 yards, it would have been a slam dunk. But Boots had not seen the deer yet. So I saw the deer before Boots did, which is not typical. Typically, animals have a lot of intuition, and they can smell and all kinds of things. Boots didn't see the deer. I'm sitting staring at the deer. This went on for, it felt like an eternity. 15, 20 seconds was all it was, but it was enough for the deer to walk past the blind and almost out of range. So finally, Boots sees the deer. Now, this is the amazing part. He went from purring and nudging and pushing my hand, he's standing right on top of the chair that I was using as a turret. And he went from, and as soon as he saw that deer, he froze and his purring stopped. He was almost like a hunting dog or something. He just froze, and he's staring and locking eyes at the deer. And the deer is looking into the blind, but the deer can't see us because we're in a blind. It's something weird, some kind of like physics or something, the way blinds work, but the deer could not see us, and Boots and I were frozen, staring at the deer at 30 yards. The problem was the deer was now behind some trees. The deer walks out from behind the trees, and as he's walking, I'm positioning my crossbow, but I no longer have my turret because Boots is standing on it. So I'm trying to get a steady shot, just, and as you guys know who hunt, you know that you cannot get a steady shot unless you have a rest of some kind, right? So I'm like trying to line up the shot, and now I'm a little bit afraid because I'm like, what if I accidentally hit Boots? Because he was like, literally, it was me, the crossbow, and Boots staring at the deer. I wish I would have got a picture of it. It was unbelievable. Now you got to remember, I have not taken one deer this year because I was gone to California. There's been so much going on. And I was like, man, I really, really want a deer. I want to make some deer jerky. There's so many things I want to do. And I see the deer. I just can never, it's got to be a perfect storm. You got to be in the blind when they walk by. You can't just, see a deer because they just run off. So anyways, I take the shot. The deer runs off. And I'm like, I hope I got him. I thought I got her. Wasn't a huge deer. It was like a medium-sized deer. I wait. I do all the proper things because you have to wait. You got to wait 15 minutes because if you jump right out of the blind, the deer will just run off, even though they're wounded. They'll run off if they hear noise and then you'll never ever find them. What you hope they do is lay down or sit down somewhere close, and then they perish, and then you find the deer close. You don't have to drag it 200 or 300 yards up a hill, right? So I wait 15, 20 minutes. By this time, it's starting to get dark. And I'm like mad at Boots. I'm like, Boots, you ruined the shot. I had the shot. I would have got that deer at close range. But, and he doesn't know. As soon as I hit the trigger, Boots jumps in the air and he tries to get out of the blind, but he can't find the crack. And he's bouncing around all inside the blind trying to get out, right? Because he heard a loud sound. Anyways, I get out of the blind finally to go try to track this deer, and there's no blood. I'm like, how did I miss that shot? That's 30 yards. I could do that in my sleep. So what do? I take the rest of the daylight that I had left, and I'm like, I'm going to zero in this crossbow again. I pull out my bag, and I switch to my my target tips, and I take the first shot, and guess what? When after I had adjusted the scope, my shot was off by 8 inches. It was 8 inches low. So what happened was the arrow went right underneath the deer. That's why there was no blood. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So I make all the adjustments. I get the crossbow zeroed in. All of a sudden, I hear rustling under the deck. And I look, and the armadillo has made a huge burrow underneath my deck. There's dirt piled all the way up to the floorboards. I'm like, are you kidding me? It was a weird day yesterday, you guys. It was a very strange day. I now have a hunting cat. I now have armadillos trying to dig under the foundation of my house. I don't know. Yeah, I know, right? I'm scapegoating Boots. Yeah, it really wasn't his fault. It's my fault because I didn't zero in zero it in. But anyway, I thought I would tell you guys that story. Unbelievable. All right, I'm back in the chat. Sorry we got off on that tangent. I just saw him out the window and I wanted to tell you the story. He's cruising around. Yeah, Casey and Boots. Now, for those of you that don't know, the reason why we call him Boots is because he has white boots on. He looks like he's wearing white boots and like a white little tuxedo underneath his chest. So, yeah, God didn't want me to have the deer. Yeah, you know what's weird is I'm starting to wonder. This is my 3rd season without a deer, you guys. 3rd season. So I'm starting to wonder. Sometimes you got to trust the Lord. Maybe the deer are carrying disease this year. Maybe that's why I keep missing. Have I looked up Valhalla? I think we already tried that. And all that came up was the comments. I think I tried. Let me write a note, though. I'll try that. Maybe I'll add that to tomorrow's show if I find anything. Valhalla. All right. Our barn cat, Huey, has a tuxedo and white mitts and sneakers. That's so cute. Love Catspiracy. That is so cute. Thanks. Danelle says, this is your year. I hope so. I've got a few weeks left. It is necessary. I'd rather have deer meat than beef out of the store and how a cow is raised. So, I mean, unless the Lord is trying to protect me from something that I don't know about. But beef is way grosser to eat. It's not even natural. They're not fed now. I mean, if you have to eat beef, eat it, but it's much better to have wild game. Wild game is naturally foraging. It's healthier. So, yes, I am a hunter, or I'm trying to be anyways. All right. Now, Boots says this really cute thing. He plays like Shy Boy. I'm like, bro, you've been here 2 months. Stop playing Shy Boy. But he plays Shy Boy, and he does this thing with his claws, and he puts them out like I don't know how to describe it. He puts his head down, and he puts his claws out, and he opens his fingers. And so now we have this thing where I do it first to him, and then he does it back to me. So I put my hands out to him, and then he puts his hands out, almost like he's reaching out. He doesn't want to quite come yet because he's like Shy Boy, But then he like comes after that. And he only comes up to me if I'm sitting down. So that's a little bit weird too. Like if I'm standing up, he will not come to me. He only comes to me if I'm sitting down. And he does a little paws out thing. Like he's trying to like high five me or something. I'll have to get that on video because it's really adorable. All right. Yeah, we don't have the chronic wasting disease in our county here. So they do have chronic wasting disease like several counties over. So yeah, he's super cute. He like puts his little paws out. All right. Yeah, I guess boot camp is over for Boots. And now he has his own bootocracy here on the ranch. He's starting trouble with neighbors' cats. He ignores the armadillo, which he should be trying to scare off from under the deck, because I see Boots under there, but he won't scare the armadillo off. They're like friends or something. I'm like, bro, you have to like get rid of this armadillo. He's tearing up the house. Jesus mentioned in the files 459 times. Wow. Let's write down Jesus, see what we can find on that for tomorrow's show. Thanks for that. Yeah, he's scared of his own shadow. It's crazy. Oh my gosh. And then I had the pleasure of meeting up with a couple of you guys on Google. Someone arranged, Alan arranged our little meeting. It was like 3 or 4 of us. Rebecca was there, Alan was there, and it was really cool. And so I brought the cat to see you guys, and you guys got to see Boots. And where was I going with this? Oh, so when I brought him in the house to see you guys, he freaked out because I closed the door behind me. Because the thing is, in Arkansas, you have to close the doors. Because what happens is if you leave doors open, rodents can get in your house, insects will fly in your house, gnats will fly in your house. So I try to keep the doors closed. And essentially, when I went to close the door, after I brought Boots in to see you guys, he freaked out because he couldn't get out. He literally ran into the sliding glass door trying to escape. Then he starts meowing, meow, meow. I'm like, bro, what is the problem? This is like your home. So I cannot do that. Yeah, it wasn't really a private meeting, Christy. It was just a couple of people that already had a group that invited me to the group. And I just decided I'd much rather hang out or talk to people on an individual level than large channels and things like that. I'm more comfortable in a setting, and all the people there was only 4 people in the video chat, and they had all been on the channel forever and ever. So I just thought it was fun to get together, and it was a kind of a random thing, so don't feel excluded if you weren't invited. It was Rebecca that kind of set it up. Swamp rabbits taste better than cottontails. Oh, Christy's joking. Yeah, it's really hard to see context and meaning sometimes through text message and email, right? So sorry about that. So, what else? All right. So many critters in that part of the country. Saw a huge spider there that didn't even seem real. Yeah, there's some like Nephilim stuff going on up here out in the Ozarks. It's crazy, some of the animals I've seen. And it'll be like any week now they'll come out in mass, full force. You see all kinds of, you're like, where was all the stuff in the dead of winter? Well, that's what makes God amazing. Everything goes to sleep in the winter and then it comes out in the spring. It's crazy. William Riley is Sasha Riley's adopted father. Yes. Now, William Riley, if you don't know, and Sasha Riley was a boy, and he says William Riley essentially pimped him out to the elite He names Donald Trump. He names several congressmen. And Justice Thomas was in these rings as well. And they would literally make them fight, sometimes to the death. Sasha was forced to kill another child when he was a child. He admits all this. If you haven't heard the story of Sasha Riley, what makes it interesting is his father seems to appear in the Epstein files, William Riley by name. Now, it may or may not be the same, but the William Riley in the Epstein files poses as an investigator to interview victims. Now, what if it was William Riley, his father? What would be the purpose of posing as an investigator? Well, you'd want to find out what these people knew so you could decide if you're going to take them out or not, right? So you got to be really careful. Like, people will say they're one thing and they're really something else. And especially when it comes to something like protecting someone's reputation, you got to really consider who's coming at you. And so, yeah, that was in the Epstein files. Crazy. Now, I don't know if Sasha said, yeah, that's my dad. He was posing as an investigator. So we'll have to wait and to hear what he says about all that. I don't know if you guys have seen any recent interviews with Sasha Riley and if he's ever addressed that. But I thought that was spooky. All right. See if Noah Yuval is there. Noah Yuval. Okay, I can do that. Okay, Epstein. Noah Yuval. Search. 16 documents. Let's go to the emails. Not too many. Enough that we can look at today. Email from AFHU dated 2013 inviting the recipient to enroll in a free online course titled A Brief History of Humankind taught by Dr. Yuval. Okay. Email discussing books, sharing a Guardian review link, asking about travel to New York, including an email. Let's see here. Let's look at this one. Yuval. Huh. Yuval. Oh. Okay, these are just book references. Nothing there. They're just talking about it. So apparently Epstein was interested in this guy. Brief recommendation of Jaron and Yuval Harari's TED Talks. So they were talking about that. We're trying to see if the two men knew each other. Email from contained 2 college application essays. I don't know who this person is I'm searching for, but I'm doing it for the person that requested. Application essays. Huh. Okay. Promotional email. Okay, that's it for that guy. So nothing specific. He didn't know him personally, but there was interest there. All right. A nonfiction book that traces the history of Homo sapiens from the Stone Age to the present, integrating biology, anthropology, and economics to explore how humans came to dominate the planet. Harari embodies the Nosferatu spirit. Wow, creepy. Okay. Macaulay Culkin. Well, let's look that one up. Good one. Culkin. That should be easy. Because hardly anyone... You're almost better off with the one-off names that aren't very common, because then you get less results that are more refined. Okay, I typed in Culkin. What we're looking for emails between the two. These are just news clippings. Nothing on Macaulay Culkin. Now, because these people were using their Blackberries, they mess up the spelling a lot of the times. So you might be searching for Melania, for instance, but believe it or not, I've found instances where they misspelled someone's name like every single time that it appeared in the files, and I only came about the name by accident. And I'm like, how could they have messed that name up so many times? And then you wonder, okay, maybe they were misspelling it on purpose so that it could later not be searchable. Maui, let's search Maui. Okay, it's a good one. Maui. That's probably going to have a lot of results, but maybe we can narrow it down. 365 documents, 15 pages. Let's narrow it down by emails. The emails is where I'm really focused on. 7 pages. Maui anticipates your arrival. Email chain. Forwarded email. Ritz-Carlton in Maui. Okay, a Maui trip of some kind in 2017. Okay. 3 Maui chairs to go to St. Thomas. Okay, Maui chairs. Huh. Yeah, there's some Maui chairs. That's weird. From Maui. 3 Maui chairs. Email. Shipping. Now, the Epstein files would be a whole lot easier to get through if they had not had all these repeats. You can see all the repeats. Literally 80% of the files are just copies and repeats of other things. They did this on purpose to snow job us. It's so, look at, there's 7 pages of this you'd have to go through to get through this. Okay, a request for Lillian was doable. What's this about? The heck? Link in a new tab. Let's see what this is about. Okay. From Reichert to Epstein. Special request. Was my request for Lily Ann something that was doable? Spent the day out on the ocean swimming with whales. Saint is pretty, but I have to say Maui is simply stunning. So this guy's requesting this Lily Ann. Could be a massage. I don't know. We don't know. So let's look at one more page from Maui. Whoa. Email exchange dated 2015 between Peter Thiel and Epstein about Thanksgiving plans. These people are hanging out at... Let's take a look at this. Linking it. Literally all the people around Trump right now were best friends with Epstein. Let's read this. From Peter Thiel to Epstein. Let's read this. It says, first from Jeffrey to Peter Thiel. Where Thanksgiving? Chomsky at Harvard on December 5th with Danny Hillis. Come. And Peter Thiel just says Maui. So Peter Thiel must have been in Maui, but Epstein invited him for Thanksgiving in 2015. Wow. These people. It's all coming to light. So, Reichert, ongoing legal fight attempts. Let's see. I'm thinking Jim or Jeffrey. Okay. Huh. Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. That's about it, you guys. I mean, there's more, but I just don't want to take any more time on that. Let's go back to the chat. All right. Culkin was with Mila Kunis before she upgraded to Ashton Kutcher. AI created a crab religion. Okay. Coney hot dogs. Oprah. Yeah, I looked up Oprah. Either they scrubbed everything or there's just nothing. There's just news headlines and stuff about her. So, didn't see anything on Oprah. Ooh, Isaac Cappy, Seth Green. Good ones. Good. Isaac Cappy, Seth Green. Let's see here. Well, so this is easy. Just type in Cappy because that should never ever show up unless it's 0 documents. Maybe they scrubbed it. Seth Green. Ooh. Whoa. In relation to Macaulay Culkin connections. We just looked up Macaulay Culkin. Why didn't it show up the first time? Weird. Okay, let's see here. So how many does we got? 4 documents. New York Post. Oh, it's just some New York Post clipping. Celebrity gossip. So nothing about Seth Green or Isaac Cappy. Teal, Vance, Wexler. Now, you might want to look up your favorite podcasters under in the Epstein files. Because, you might be shocked. Some people, they actually show up in the Epstein files. Not in a negative light necessarily, but they were talking about podcasters in the Epstein files. Yeah, it's weird. Why didn't I find Culkin? The only thing it had on Culkin was that news clippings. Lillian could be the name of the ship boat. Okay, thanks. Many fires. Larry Fink. Who's Larry Fink? Oh boy, we're going on an hour, you guys. Now, I'm going to put links to everything we covered today, and you can do your own research as well. Once you get the link, you'll know where the site is, and you can type in your own searches, and you can help with the investigation, especially if there's something you're particularly interested in, and then you can send it back to me, and I can present it here on the channel. Yeah, I did check for Melania Trump. Again, she was one of those names where they could have been misspelling her name the whole time, because I didn't find anything of note at all, and there should be something about Melania Trump in there. It's just mainly just entertainment news articles and stuff like that. There was nothing of note that I could find anyway. So, yeah, I did look up Tom Hanks. Same thing. Either they erased everything. There's nothing. Joe Rogan. I didn't look up Joe Rogan. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. Thank you. Larry Fink. Let's look him up. Larry Fink. So I'm just going to type in Fink. Okay. Well, I'll type in Larry Fink. Larry Fink. Spin the wheel. 36 mentions. Whoa. Even shows the years. A lot of mentions in 2012 and 2016, right around the election. Let's take a look here. Ike Groff. I wonder if that's that other lady Groff's husband or whatever, who was close to Epstein. She was like Epstein's assistant. Larry Fink's birthday. Whoa. Epstein attended. What? Bingo. What? This was 2011. After he was a convicted PDF file. See, this is where things get weird. So I just clicked on that. It said Fink's birthday, but then everything's been redacted. When you see this happen, where what they were talking about in the search doesn't appear in the email, that means it's all been redacted. But here it says, email from Epstein confirming social plans referencing attendance at Larry Fink's birthday and scheduling details. Because I guess this AI summary can see past the redactions. That's probably what's going on here. But when you actually click on it, you don't see it. Actually, let's do this. Let's show you guys how this works. Let me show you how it's been redacted, because you can go back to, let's see, you can go back to the original DOJ website and find the actual file. Okay, yep, see? Oh, here you can see it. So this is from Epstein. And he literally says, are you here on Thursday? Going to Larry Fink birthday tomorrow evening with family. But the person who he forwarded the email to has been redacted. Obviously, this is not a victim. Who are they protecting? We need Nancy Mace to say, hey, you guys are redacting people that aren't victims. You're hiding for your friends. We need a complete report of all the redactions because this is not right. So let's see what else we have on Larry Fink. That's a good one, you guys. Good job. Good job. See, this is called crowd research. They hate this because one person doesn't have all the answers. You got to have the crowd come up with stuff. We can all run down the rabbit holes. Okay, let's see here. Jeffrey discussing attendance on. Let's see here. Open link. Let's see. Let's take a look here. Fink. Let's find the Fink. Find the stink. Okay, that was that. Birthday. Anytime plan Larry Fink's birthday. What? In which Jeffrey asked Larry Summers for suggestions for the Treasury. What? This was after Trump got elected. Or, yeah, right after he won the first election. We'll see what this says. Oh my gosh. What the heck? Why? Okay, so Epstein asks, do you have any suggestions for Treasury? Larry Summers then says, do you have a clue what kind of strategy they want to follow? Are they open to Democrats? Tony James, Larry Fink, Fred Smith, Peter Thiel. Were they serious regarding Jamie? Jeff Immelt? Do you have any suggestions for Treasury? Why is he asking him? Why is he asking Epstein? Why is Epstein asking if he has any suggestions for the Treasury? As if Epstein is in charge of staffing the Treasury. Who's Larry Summers? Epstein then says, call me. He puts this number down. See how this works? As soon as like the details start coming up, Epstein's like, okay, we can't talk about that on email. You got to call me. Who's Larry Smith? Larry Summers, sorry. Let's look up Larry Summers. We'll put in Trump. Oh, he's a former Treasury Secretary. Vocal critic of Donald Trump. Labeling presidency as a grave threat to U.S. prosperity. So he's the former Treasury Secretary. That's why he was interested. Weird. Epstein files. Okay, let's keep going with this. The Fink. Okay. Wait, what happened to our search here? Dang it. Oh, here we go. All right. Suggestions for Treasury transition roles. But why is Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary, asking? That's weird. Recorded interview transcript of Epstein in which he discusses his philanthropy, notably funding the Santa Fe Institute, membership on the Rockefeller board, and okay, I think we saw that interview with Bannon. Here's more Larry Fink's birthday. Huh. Okay. A lot of this birthday stuff from 2011. Jeez. One more page. What's up with the Ouroboros? It's weird. More on the Treasury. You guys, the feeling that I'm getting going through the files, all that I have, is that Epstein was in the middle of Trump winning his first term, and everybody was messaging Epstein to find out what was happening, how they should invest money. And they were asking Epstein some very weird questions that you wouldn't think Epstein would know about Trump. And they were seeking advice from Epstein. It's almost as if Epstein got Trump elected. And these are prominent people. Like this. Treasury position. That conversation. That's a weird conversation. All right. Larry Fink's birthday. At Gramercy Tavern. I don't know where that is. Okay, we're almost to the bottom of this. Just weird. What a weird conversation. Okay. Larry Summers says, why not Romney? Epstein says, should I float your name? So he was the former Treasury Secretary. So it's almost as if Epstein's going to go back to Trump and tell him. This was in 2016, right after Trump won. And then Larry Summers says, not unless you think they want rational economic policy and can accept independence. Whoa. You guys, this is insane. Insane. Okay, I'm back in the chat. Wow. Yeah, it was like Epstein was Trump's handler in the beginning. So maybe he's not really dead. Maybe they just faked his death. Now they could whitewash this whole thing. They can make all this go away with all the children that they trafficked. They faked Epstein's death. That was probably the final decision of how to revive Epstein's reputation. They're like, okay, well, we realize we can't revive your reputation. You did help us get Trump elected and fill his cabinet. So we'll just fake your death. You're going to have to just live a quiet life. You can take your billions and go, we'll give you an island over in Greece somewhere. There's 1 million islands in Greece. And we'll do some plastic surgery. And you'll just have to be a nobody. Here's your reward. And then now it erases and exonerates Trump, right? Even though it doesn't. We all know that it doesn't. Because we see the little fragments and remnants of all these connections to him and Epstein, even all the way up to the first election. So, but the general American public is so divided between right and left. They're going to say, Trump's exonerated. There's no proof. That doesn't prove anything. And this just goes on and on and on. So that's what I think happened. Looking at this, just to see how integrated Epstein was in Trump's life. And everyone was coming to Epstein for answers about Trump. We're going to get into some more of that tomorrow. Actually, let's see. We might be able to cover some of this today. Yeah, because this kind of relates to what we're talking about. Let's see. I just got to get to the right tab here. Okay, so here's an email. Here's the Larry Summers guy again. Gosh, I'm glad we looked at this. From Epstein, he tells Larry Summers, this was in 2018, by age 3, Mr. Trump was earning $200,000 a year in today's dollars from his father's empire. He was a millionaire by age 8. He seems to know a lot about Donald Trump, doesn't he? And weirdly, if we were to take Epstein at his word about Trump's true wealth, then we would realize that Trump is lying. Because remember, Trump said, my dad didn't give me anything. I just got a $10 million loan. That was it. So the truth comes out. What else do we have in here? I had a couple that we can probably look at. Here's one. This is from 2016. Looks like May 2016, before Trump won. And Epstein says, Trump is likely to be asked questions soon about me. In an ideal world, what would you think he should or could say? The person then replies, Kathy Rumler, now she's on the chopping block. She's in big trouble. She's in the front page news for her associations with Epstein. She might have been fired or something, but if you look up Kathy Rumler in the news, you'll see that she's on the chopping block. She replies what Trump should say, and she says, I knew Epstein professionally and always had positive dealings with him. I don't know anything about his personal legal issues other than what I have read in public reports, and therefore don't have any comment. This is exactly how Trump was responding to allegations of his connections to Epstein in the beginning. It was almost like he was taking notes from Kathy Rumler. Then Epstein says this. This was in 2016, before Trump won. Epstein says, supposedly a girl said that Donald had sex with her at my house when she was underage. I think this says MC2. This must be the modeling agency. She said she has a witness in 1993. MC2. Pottinger story 2 weeks ago. McGiver said that Pottinger wanted to meet him. I emailed back, do not meet. You are not involved. Yesterday, McGiver sent me. Pottinger worked his way into my office to tell MC2 me that very annoyed. I called and got his telling me the above. So that's a weird one. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, so these are basically how I found all of those. Was I did a search on Epstein call Trump 2016 because I wanted to see if there were calls between the two people, right? And this is what came up. What else do we have here? Oh, that's for tomorrow's show. Let's move that one over here. And we covered that one. Let's see. Okay. That's going to be tomorrow's show. For tomorrow's show. I think that's about it, you guys. I'm back in the chat. All right. Uh-oh, did we get knocked off? No, you guys are still here. We went long today, didn't we? We're going to do the red shoes tomorrow, you guys. Okay, I think we'll end the show there. I love each and every one of you guys. Thanks for showing up. I'll see you tomorrow. Much love, everybody.